that was my moment. I literally fell into the dating pool.
Literally. Literally. Hey, Storytellers. We're your hosts, Allie and Christy. We're here to tell you sometimes the journey sucks, but doesn't that make for the best stories? All right, everybody. We have Kyle Petit in the podcast booth today. Christy and I are very excited to have Kyle here with us. For those who did not attend the October open mic night or caught the live stream of the open mic as well, we had published author and notable local Kyle Petit as our featured storyteller. She is the author of 30 Shades of Grayton, which is a tale about the highs and lows of dating in a small town. And then the October open mic night theme was horror, so it fit perfectly.
It can be scary.
Yeah, so the official bio of your book, 30 Shades of Grayton, is the culmination of years of observation and later participation in the unique world of small-town singles. The book is intended to shed some humor and hope on the subject as it addresses the joys and pitfalls of dating in a one-road town. This fun little read celebrates 30A's small beach communities and the wonderful people who live here. Welcome, Kyle.
Hi, everybody.
I feel like we need an applause or something, like
Yeah.
canned applause from the audience.
As we were choosing the bio, we have to tell you guys this. We're like, okay, Wikipedia, Kyle Eugene Petit is an American former stock car racing driver. And Kyle was just saying that actually.
I didn't know that until I was in Publix one day, which is, obviously a very Florida thing. But some guy was like, "Oh, you're Kyle Petit, like the race car driver." And I was like, "No, Kyle Petit, chef and author."
And you're like, and water skiing too.
We are,
You're like, that
yes,
didn't come up in the
waterskiing
Google
badass.
search.
And I love it. People are always like, "It's Petit." I'm like, "No, it's Petit." Yeah, it's French.
They're like
It's
trying
okay. I
to
am French.
trying to tell you how to pronounce your own last
Oh,
name.
yeah. Well, I mean, with a first name like Kyle being a girl
Yeah.
too, I get all kinds of like, "Ooh, it's Kylie Petit."
That's cute.
Yeah.
And you walk in this like
Yes.
beautiful badass, and like people are like, oh, not what I was picturing.
They were
Yes.
expecting a dude.
Yeah, from somebody whose name is spelled Ali. I get Ali a lot.
Oh,
So
Oh yeah,
that would
my Siri calls you Ollie.
yes. So when you're calling me from your car, it's like Ali Diamond, and it's like, no, I'm not a Middle Eastern man.
Ali.
Like,
Ollie Ababwa.
yes.
You get flagged at TSA.
I do. Uber drivers are very confused.
Not what I was picturing. Well, yeah. So we had so much fun with you having you at the October open mic night. How was that? So you published the book in 2015, is that right?
I think it's been a while.
Mm,
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. So
Yeah.
how was that experience for you? Taking the mic and being on stage and talking about your journey and reading a little bit from the book.
It was interesting. It was it's funny because as somebody who has a bit of a background on stage and certainly like my job entails me talking to people
mhm.
on a regular basis, thus my voice is what it is today. But basically like getting in front and just talking about myself was a little different. I have to admit, it's like a little
Intimidating.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I felt very vulnerable and like kind of raw because um I don't really, I wrote this book, but I don't really spend a whole lot of time in my life talking about myself. I have like a big, boisterous family that they're all full of big personalities. And
Mhm.
so like I find myself discussing them more than I discuss myself.
Mhm. It can be hard to find yourself in an environment like that.
Yes, it's very easy to get lost.
Mhm.
And actually one of the reasons that I started this process with writing the book and whatnot is I realized that my marriage had not lasted. It had not. It just didn't work out for us.
Mhm.
And I realized that I could see a bit why I had lost who I was a
Mhm.
bit because everyone around me is so amazing, and I kind of just took a back seat in my own life, and got busy raising children and working on businesses and being a good wife and all that. And
Yeah.
um and I am myself am clearly a boisterous person by nature, and I think I've been sort of stifling myself, and so when I finally, like, found my voice,
Mhm.
I never shut up again.
Yeah, and Christy and I were even saying, that we felt like your novel had these overarching tones of self-discovery.
Oh, absolutely. It was like meeting myself again, um, in a good way. I guess it can be scary, but it turns out I like who I am, and I was really pleased to
That's a
discover
very
that.
good
Yeah.
discovery, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I just
Mm,
it's interesting you say sharing about the story was very raw and vulnerable for you, but it is a raw and vulnerable story. And we were kind of chatting about it. What when you started to write the book and when you got the idea to write the book, what kind of made you think, "Oh, this is goes beyond a story just for me, like this is a story for, maybe the world stage potentially."
Well, yeah, clearly everyone is unique in their own way, but I think, my situation, I'm certainly not the only woman or man,
yeah.
in the world who's gone through these things. And I think not feeling like you're alone in that,
Mhm.
and beginning to understand that, like, hey, I know that your boat is rocking, but like everyone's kind of in the same ocean, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
was like it was sort of empowering and helped me kind of get back on my feet. I
Yeah.
mean, I just felt like other people would wanna hear this, you
Oh,
know?
yeah. Because if there's one thing that everybody has in common, I think, is a bad dating story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, I mean, nightmarish, really, and
Mhm.
I probably had it easy. A lot of these stories aren't necessarily just my stories, they're stories of other singles
Yeah.
that live in this small town,
Mhm.
and then when you think about it, more people live in small towns in America and over the world than live in big cities,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, more people would identify with this, like, I always say somebody wrote Sex in the City, but, like, somebody needed to write Sex in Mayberry, and
Yeah.
that's kind of what I tried to do.
Yeah. It was so remarkable seeing you at the open mic and just seeing how your story resonated with everybody in the audience.
Mhm.
Like, you just looked out over the audience and it was just a sea of smiles because, I mean, yes, dating in a small town is scary. Finding yourself is scary. But at the end of the day, it's a story about redemption, I feel.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to realize that the only person in your life that you're going to spend your entire life with is yourself from day
Mhm.
1 to the very, very last bit. And if you can't like that person, life would just be miserable. So find
Yes.
something
Mhm.
great about yourself, embrace it, and run
Mhm.
with that.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
even like the not so great parts,
Yeah.
it's you hit it perfectly when it's like these different shades of who we are and it's like for better or worse, like,
Mhm.
just kind of embrace the mess cuz everybody's a mess
Yes, well,
on
and
any given
everyone's
day.
everyone's mess is different, and that's kind of why in the back of the book, I, like, saved some empty pages because I was like, as you're reading this, if you think of your own little shade or something, and it's like,
Yeah.
write yourself a note in the back of the book and
Mhm.
go back and revisit it and read it. Like, I find myself pulling the book out for girlfriends and guy
Mhm.
friends and being like, "No, I wrote about this."
Yeah, you're like,
Like,
"Actually, if you
"Read chapter
reference it."
9. Like
Yes.
like,
You're like, "This is a guidebook
yes.
and
Yeah.
a
It's called
self-help
a
book."
grace period.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking a lot about self-love, a lot about self-discovery. Let's start this by having Kyle tell us a little bit about yourself. So I know the audience knows you wrote a book, but how did you end up on 30A?
So I was a water skier. I started out in water ski shows doing like all those pyramids and adagio doubles and like all
So
that stuff. I
awesome.
mean, it
Oh
was
my gosh.
back in the day when we
Same.
used to be on ESPN, like I went through puberty in a swimming suit on television. So
That's incredible. I
yeah,
mean,
good times.
yes.
Like you stop worrying about your body so much when you're just like, well, it's here, so here we go. But in college I started 3 event water skiing, which is a little bit different discipline. I slalom competitively. I do trick skiing, which is a little bit more gymnastic, and then I jump for distance. And, on my college team trained down here in Santa Rosa Beach.
Okay.
One of the best training centers of the world is here. And
That's so interesting.
I was given the opportunity to be the chef at the ski school for the summer,
Okay.
as I couldn't afford. I mean, I was broke. I couldn't afford to actually go and live at the ski school but, being their chef afforded me the opportunity to train with them
Mhm.
and live there for free. So it was like win, 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 win.
Yeah.
And while I was the chef there, one of my coaches, I used to live in France, and so I speak French. That's where I learned how to cook and everything. And
Mhm.
one of my coaches was from Belgium, and he was like, "Hey, I know this guy. You know, he owns a restaurant down the road."
Mhm.
And he didn't say he owned it. He said he manages a restaurant down the road. He's my friend, and he can get us a table. You
Mhm.
know, and I didn't realize that my coach was asking me on a date because why would your coach ask you on a date? That's so against the Olympic Committee rules.
Oh
Yes.
gosh.
Safe sport.
Yes.
But it happens a
So,
lot.
it happens. Yeah, well, he ended up introducing me to my husband.
Okay.
So, he was he
Yes.
was a little
Probably
confused,
not his
like
intention. Yes.
yeah, no, like, but I mean, when this, like, 6'7", I mean, incredibly handsome man walked into
Yeah.
the bar wearing a Hawaiian shirt, I was like, "And I'm with him."
Yeah. You're like, "Table for 3,
Yeah,
please."
and he kept and the reason we were introduced is because I speak French, it was just that simple, and so,
Mhm.
like, you know, we were speaking French, and he kept, like, circling back to me, like, grabbed my face and be like, "Oh my god, you're beautiful, and you speak French." And then, like, he'd walk away, and he'd,
Yeah.
like, circle back, like, 5 minutes later, like, "Oh my god, you're beautiful,
Was this
and
on
you
your
speak
date?
French." On my a supposed
Oh,
date
okay. Yes.
with my
Yes.
poor coach.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
gosh.
Yeah,
and he didn't
and
interject?
and
Yeah.
I was like, "God, this guy is gorgeous. He doesn't have much to say, but I like what he's saying."
Yeah, like what do you say? At what
I
point
would like
did you
that too,
figure
yes.
out it was a date with your coach?
Well, he expressed his disappointment later,
Oh,
but, like, much later, like, after I got married, he was like,
Oh.
no
"I
way.
want you to know that I was wanting to take you out when I introduced you accidentally to your
Mm.
husband."
No
I feel
way.
like he's gotta give you more of a heads up sooner.
Yeah, I was like,
Like,
I
oh,
d
I
but
did not read that.
Yeah.
now
You're like,
also
"Whoops."
and certainly Jean-Christophe will not be listening to this podcast, because he's in Belgium.
Mm.
But, so I can say that he's 5 feet 2 inches tall and
Oh.
wears a smaller pant size than I do, and I was like, "If you saw me looking at the over 2-meter tall gentleman, you might realize that you might not be my type." But
Mm.
he's
Was,
handsome and nice and everything, but he's my coach.
yeah, no, I mean, just so many things
Yeah,
going on
yeah.
with that. But, was he at the top of the pyramid? I
But
know he was
I
coaching.
could have held him on my shoulders
Okay, alright.
easily,
So
easily.
that's,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
and
cute.
don't worry, I mean, don't get me wrong, if John Kristoff were ever to hear this,
Mm,
I would like to add that the man does have game. I
mhm,
just wasn't a part of that game.
mm,
There you go.
mhm. He was, it was misdirected for
Mhm,
sure.
mhm.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful to him because that one incident, like, started my whole life, set my whole life in,
Yeah.
rolling. So, like, a year later, I was married, and then I was a mother of 3 instantly because I inherited 2 toddlers.
Mhm,
And then before you know it, I'm a mother of 4, and we've
mhm,
got 3 restaurants, and then we, pare it down to 2 restaurants, and just, like, you know, I I can't I can't thank him enough for giving
mhm.
me all those gifts.
For taking you on that date.
That one not date. Yeah.
No, it's always the things you least expect that lead to like those huge moments.
Well, I mean, and it's funny because in a way, I guess that's kind of a dating nightmare story where you're just
It
like,
is, yeah, for him.
my whole life, yeah, exactly, for him. He got the raw end of that deal.
Yes, you have the short end of the stick, if you will.
Yeah. Poor
I'm
Jean-Christophe.
sorry. There's gonna be, like, one listen in Belgium, like, on our podcast stats, and I'm gonna be like, "Well, I know who that is." Yeah.
He's
Et
still
si
holding out.
Jean-Christophe, tu écoutes, je
Uh-oh.
suis désolée.
Okay, that was beautiful. We
Stop
should
it, you're gonna
have
make
you
me fall in
speak.
love.
Yeah. Stop it.
Wait, so why water skiing?
I grew up on a river. My father was an avid athlete. I mean, like, any sport he did, he was a 3-sport scholarship athlete in college. Who even does that? Like,
Wow.
he had a scholarship for football, basketball, and baseball.
That's
Like,
unbelievable.
so
That's
he
huge.
had 3 daughters, and he wanted to find us each our sport, and the one that I really hit on was I loved snow skiing, which I competed in, and I loved water skiing. I
Mm,
didn't really like the team sports. I liked and my personality was more like, I'm not super competitive with anyone but myself.
mm,
So, I liked those sports where I could just push myself further. And my father saw that I had an aptitude for it. And it was something for us to do together,
yeah,
which is always precious when when you're a little girl, like I mean, my daddy's still everything. Let's face it.
Yeah.
He's my world. And that was like our thing. He'd wake
Mhm.
us up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Girls, you know,
yeah.
time to get up. The river's glassy. Let's get on the water.
Oh my gosh.
It's
How
like
big was this river?
It can be a mile wide in parts. It's the
Okay.
Fox River in northern Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Um, it's not very deep, but it's, a pretty decent waterway, and
Uh-huh.
there are stretches where you can go for miles of just skiing. And then there was a small town in Wisconsin. Literally, I lived on the border, so there's a small town in Wisconsin called Twin Lakes, Wisconsin that
I grew up in
had
Wisconsin.
oh, it's by Lake
I'm like,
Geneva. I
oh my
have
gosh,
tons of family in
stop.
Wisconsin.
Oh, wait, I worked in Burlington.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Wow,
funny.
this is for a
I
niche
actually
audience.
I worked in Burlington across the street from the chocolate factory
What?
for like a whole summer.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait, so I worked in Burlington, so I know exactly where that chocolate factory is.
Oh yeah, it's
Oh,
the
I thought
worst.
you
So
were
when
gonna
you
say you worked at the chocolate factory. And
No,
I got so
no,
excited.
I worked at there was that engine, I'm not going to name it, but there was that engineering company in Burlington.
You're kidding. Did
Yeah.
they develop like hydraulic gates and stuff like that? Because that's where I worked.
They did. They crashed cars.
Oh, fun. No, I worked where
Uh-huh.
I worked at the hydraulics place because I spoke Spanish and it was like an internship to like like they needed someone to translate for people on
Yeah.
the line and stuff. So
Oh my God. Small world.
I know.
Small world.
Yeah, that is so funny. Well, Wisconsin is a small world, but so I
Yeah.
skied for the Aquanuts in Twin Lakes, Wisconsin.
Okay. I
Yeah.
weirdly have heard of them.
We were famous.
Yeah.
We were so famous in
Yeah.
southern Wisconsin. We were the bomb. I mean, we had groupies.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
No, she's not joking. I know of this. Yes.
Like I met Green Bay Packers players and their
Stop.
brothers because I
Jealous.
was an Aquanut.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
I'm just picturing it now.
So all the early morning skis and all that, like how was that? Were you skiing like 6 days a week? Like what was your
Well, when I was little, we would ski on the weekends and early weekdays before my dad would head off to work. But no, when I turned 9, I started being on the Aquanuts junior team and their
Mhm.
development team, and then that was 3 days a week of practice and then 2 shows a week. So, about 5 days a week anyway. And then
Yeah, it's
it turns out Wilmot Mountain
Yeah.
is where my snow ski team was, and it's the same town. And like
No
we're so
way.
hardcore in Wisconsin, like there wouldn't be ice on the lake, but there was snow on the mountain. So I would have water ski practice and snow ski practice on the same day in the same
No
town.
way.
Did you ever, sorry, not to interject, but I'm just like, I can't get over the Wisconsin thing, but did you ever go skiing like on plastic, like on the mountain?
No, I
Okay.
didn't. Now, I think at Alpine they had a plastic
Yeah.
run, and then there was the Norgie ski jump, which is like, those did you ever hear of Eddie the Eagle? Like the this guy who he's a little guy from England who like taught himself how to like launch himself off these massive ski jumps.
Oh,
Well,
jeez.
he actually at one point I think trained at the Norgie ski jump not far
Okay.
from my house. It's like
Yeah.
this massive nylon ski jump, like the really, really high one. They just and they would land in the river at my house. Like
Oh my gosh.
randomly, it was kind of fun to watch. But no, I never personally did it on
Mhm.
I mean, you might as well. It was basically a vertical hockey rink.
Yeah.
I mean, Wilmot Mountain Mayonnaise, it was a landfill turned into a ski hill.
No
Love it.
Yeah.
way.
Wisconsin.
It's things you do in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Eat cheese curds and ski on landfills.
Yes. Play in trash.
I water skied in ditches. Like
Yeah.
we would
No
hook
way.
my friends and
Cool.
I would hook our ropes up to the back of a pickup truck on the tow eye
Mhm.
and just like hop in the ditch and ski.
Oh my gosh.
Which shows that you really loved your craft.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, oh
Do
yeah.
it.
I mean, we were just a bunch of kids messing around. What's not to love?
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
true. It sounds
It
like a
was
lot of fun.
so much fun.
Yes.
It was like our outside of skiing pastimes were like going to Jimmy Buffett concerts and
Oh my God, at Alpine, right?
At Alpine,
Oh my God,
absolutely.
I've been to that. Dave
Mhm.
Matthews too.
Oh yeah, my first concert was Janet Jackson at Alpine Valley.
Okay, that's
No
awesome.
way.
Yeah, it was Miss Jackson if you're nasty.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
awesome. And then I went to New Kids on the Block like a month later, and I was so in
Oh my
love with
God.
Joey. And I met him later in life when I was actually friends with an actual band,
Yeah.
and I was so disappointed. I was like, "Oh, Joey,
Never meet your heroes.
no, never."
No. Wait,
No.
why was he?
He was
not
just
nice?
he was a little skeevy. Like I'm sitting there,
Yeah.
with my friends that are like like really, I mean, and not taking away from what New Kids on the Block was doing because obviously I was like their number one fan. I
Yes.
actually had a poster in my closet because I wasn't allowed to have posters in my room. But no, he was kind of hanging out with some young. I
Hmm.
mean, I was 20 and these girls were young.
Oh.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
that's
like,
young.
let's go party in my limo and just like wearing a wife beater and cut off sweat shorts and
Yeah.
like knee socks. And he was much more of a Jersey boy than I was expecting. Like, in my
Yeah.
dreams, he was like all sophisticated and he just,
They
he
always
wasn't.
are.
Yeah, he was, that was
It's a bit of a
disappointing.
letdown.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm like sitting next to this like real rock star and he's like on the phone with his wife, checking on the kids, like being a stand up,
Aw, yeah.
amazing human being, and I'm
Yeah.
like, classy.
Yeah.
You know?
So, not to circle back, but or not to say circle back. I
Oh,
will
it's
circle
okay.
back.
Someone's gotta tether me. I tend
No.
to orbit.
No. Well, I did wanna ask, okay, so you speak French
Mm.
and you speak Spanish.
See,
What else do you
And
speak?
Dutch?
I speak a little Italian. I don't
Oh,
speak Dutch. I
Italian.
do know
Okay.
how to order chicken in Dutch, and everyone assumes in Belgium that I speak Dutch, so they'll hand me the Dutch menu because 'cause I'm, like, tall and blonde,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, "Oh, I still don't know anything more than keep," which is
You're like
chicken.
Chicken.
you're like, "That's it?"
I'll have to keep. Thank you. Yeah, no, so I speak a little Italian. I spoke more, in college. I was a French literature major, Spanish language, and Italian major. I minored in Italian. But it's funny because, I thought I was gonna be working in this office, like, translating. I mean, like, I took
Yeah.
the Foreign Legion exams. I was like, "I'm gonna be
Wow.
like a spy." I applied to the CIA and not the Culinary Institute of
No,
America, but the
No
the
actual
way.
big
CIA,
one, the
like,
one
yeah,
that
the
gives you
spooky
guns,
one.
What
yeah.
happened with
Yeah.
that?
Well, I married a foreign national, and
Oh.
that is
Oh.
but also it's funny, but, once you apply once to the CIA, they can call you 40 years later and be like, "You're hired."
No way.
Yeah. So, if you're listening,
I
big brother, I'm a chef now
Yes.
too. But,
We got a hot one for you.
but it turns out I just married into a family where part of the family's from Costa Rica. A huge part of the family is from Sicily.
Mhm.
And then, the Belgian factor as well. It's like I was being introduced to some of the Zios and Zias,
Sure.
who never really spoke French. They always spoke like a broken French Italian mix or whatever. And they were getting a little confused as to who I was, like this new girl that showed up with their nephew. And
Mhm.
so I was just like, "Ma zio Giuseppe, mi chiamo Kyle. Sono la moglie di Olivieri." And
Mhm.
they're like, "Ah, ma che la giovannina principessa parla italiano." It's like,
That's
they left
good.
me, like, that's like,
Yes.
the extent of my Italian anymore is like I can introduce myself. Yeah. But, like, when I go back to
And
Italy,
order
I can
chicken.
I can still read Italian. It's just, like,
Wow.
instant recall is kind of harder because I don't speak it very much anymore. But within the family, we speak French every
Uh-huh.
day. We speak Spanish every day.
Mhm.
That's impressive. I mean, you must have an aptitude for languages in general.
Yes, I've always when I was 6 years old, I asked my parents if I could start to learn to speak French randomly.
Oh my
No
gosh.
And,
way.
there was this one lady in town that did, like, an after-school class, and
Uh-huh.
my mother as I was, like, 8 years younger than my closest sibling, so my
Uh-huh.
mother was always occupied with them in high school, and she was always looking for something for me to do after school, so she was like, "Yes, take French lesson." And then, the French lady moved away, and a Spanish lady came, from Spain, and so I took Spanish, and
Uh-huh.
it was only, like, that 1 little year, but after learning about how people learn language and how your mind kind of works that way, until you're 12 years old, you're learning your maternal language. So your
Uh-huh.
brain is 100% open to learning to become fluent in any language.
Hmm.
So if you open that door, like even if since I didn't continue and then started again when I was 13 and 14, like they do in the US, there was a stopper put in that door and it stayed open for me because I was exposed at a young age to multiple languages.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
my
that's
brain
huge.
didn't turn off that way. So I can pick things up like my boyfriend is very handsome
Yeah.
and he's from the Czech Republic,
Oh.
which the Czech language is actually so difficult that
Mhm.
Czech children all have speech therapists assigned to them in grade school.
Oh, wow.
It's really a difficult language. I have like a 36 word vocabulary in Czech. I'm getting there. So
Nice.
That's
ahoy
very
everybody, jak
impressive.
se máš?
I love it. I know. They say that like I mean, you hit it the earlier you learn these languages because I started learning Spanish. I mean, all throughout school, I studied
Mhm.
abroad in Barcelona, and like I'm, I mean, maybe around like when you're forced to, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you don't use it, you lose it, and
Well,
Como
and you can't
esta?
yeah, but you can't be afraid.
Today está el
I
baño.
think
I
I
mean.
think adults also we have inhibitions, or most people do. I
Mhm.
have less inhibitions than most. And so I'm not afraid to make a total ass of myself. I don't care if I'm speaking your language like a 3-year-old. I'm
Mhm.
gonna try to speak your language anyway
Mhm.
because it's
Yeah.
fun for me.
That
Um,
was always a thing when we would go out to bars and like be drinking. That's when our Spanish was the best.
oh yeah, because
Lower
you lose your
inhibitions, better Spanish.
yeah. I mean, you should hear me speak Italian when I've been drinking wine. It's amazing.
I mean, that's like the natural habitat to speak Italian, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we should. Dave, we need some wine.
Yes.
In here.
Yeah.
It's like 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Listen, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
And it's a Friday.
And it is
So,
Friday.
Yes,
yeah.
we made it. Well, we were talking about just obviously your book is about, the dating pitfalls of, a small town, a one road town. For those that aren't familiar with 30A, how would you kind of paint a picture for them and describe where we live?
Well, it's funny, the book is kind of, now that I look at it, a snapshot of a time that is disappearing
Mhm.
in our area. We were smaller, and then there
Yeah.
was a pandemic and Florida opened,
Mhm.
and everyone decided, rightly so, that Florida is an amazing place to live. But I think still, for those of us who've been long time, lifetime, you know, uh, residents of 30A, we remember how idyllic it was. I mean, I'm not joking when I say I walk into the Red Bar almost every Sunday and half my church is there and
Mhm.
we hug the necks of everyone we know.
Mhm.
And, if you don't show up, people come looking for you. It's not, we still have that, I think, small town heart, that soul that's so important, where we all feel connected by this very magical place, and it just is. I don't know if it's the quartz in the white sand, or if it's just the sunshine or what, but
Mhm.
people who live here feel lucky to live here, and they
Mhm.
should, because it's absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. And yes, there are tourists, and yes, there are all those things, but I travel all over the world. For water skiing and for other reasons, for businesses and stuff. And I'm never once in my life been disappointed to come home, ever.
Mm.
I'm always so excited to come home.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And this book is a bit of a love story. It's like a love letter to 30A too. I mean,
Mhm.
I know that, I joke about how difficult it is to be single, and it is difficult to be single in a small town. I mean, the dating pool is now a puddle. And,
Mhm.
like we say, like, you didn't lose your boyfriend, you just lost your turn. And, like, because
So funny.
it's true though. I
Yeah, oh,
mean,
yeah.
how many Eskimo sisters do y'all have?
Well,
Because
that one's married, so yeah.
well, still, I mean, there you were single before you got married. Like,
Yeah.
turns out, like, I mean, even my boyfriend lived in a different town, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Because one of his like hookups was hooking up with my ex hookup. You know what I mean? I'm
That
Oh
is
my
like,
gosh.
so
wow.
funny.
Yeah.
Literally, I'll like when I start talking to a new guy, I'll like text the group chat and I'll be like, "All right, who
Who's
knows what about this guy?"
Yeah.
who's dated him?
Time for
Yes.
the tea.
I'm
Yeah.
like, "Is he talking to anybody else?"
Yeah. Like,
Should
for
I make a
real.
group chat? Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not on Tinder, but who is, and is he? Like,
Yeah.
it's so true.
And now a message from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Distillery 98, home of Dune Laker, the spirit of the Panhandle. Check out their tasting room and production facility in the South Walton Commerce Park. Pour freely, toast generously, and always drink responsibly.
And now back to our show.
I was curious because when you did kind of get back into the dating baby pool, what kind of, I think you talked about downloading an app or
Oh yeah.
jumping on, I mean, because nowadays it's like, they say just how small the world gets with all this technology
Mhm.
and everybody knows everybody. And, obviously you've experienced both sides, but what was kind of your plan of attack once you decided to kind of jump back on the horse?
Well, once I started letting it be known, like, I wrote about it in the book. I got
Yeah.
really drunk one night at a local bar, just like, I'm a lightweight, it doesn't take much. So, but
Cheap date.
sure, for real. So, anyway, I hadn't told anybody about my separation because, I mean, my ex-husband is kind of a high profile member of our very small town. So, like,
Mhm.
he's a very big fish in a very small pond.
Mhm.
But I didn't wanna, like, I knew how everyone was gonna kind of get in my business, because that's just how it goes. And, so I didn't say anything, and then I got picked up by one of my very good friends, because it's a small town, he's also my cab driver.
Yeah.
And I just started whimpering away in the back seat like, "Oh, no, 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 I'm getting a divorce and blah, blah, blah," and he was like, "Oh my god, I'm the first to know." But, like, I swear, like, a week, I mean, because he picks up all my friends, and, like
Uh-huh.
like, a week later, it's, all of a sudden, like, it's like sharks, they smell like fresh blood in the water,
Uh-huh.
and it's like, you didn't really have to go looking for a date. They
Uh-huh.
were like, Kyle's single. And it wasn't really because it was me. It was because there was a new single girl in town. And it was like everyone else had already dated everybody else. And like, Kyle's I mean, and people you think of and you're like lifelong friends that you're like thinking of them like it's like kind of a brother. All of a sudden they're like, want to go to sushi?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you want to go to Pandora's later?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Back when it was Pandora's.
I know. Well, that was what that got picked up from Pandora's. Like I made the stupidest mistake. Like I wore like 6-inch stilettos and like, I had the divorce stat going on. So like I'm 5'8", actually 5'9". And I think at the time I weighed like 109 pounds because like I just couldn't keep weight on because I was so stressed out. So like I really did look like a baby giraffe in these like stilettos. And like I caught my heel in one of the planks of like the boardwalk going up to the bar. This is like I mean, I was a little tipsy, but like I went down all the way, like heels in the air, like, so embarrassing. And that's when I was like, I think I need Robbie to come pick me up in the taxi.
Didn't even make it into the bar.
No.
You're like, listen, I know what's going to happen if I go in there.
It was so like, I mean, that was my moment. I literally fell into the dating pool.
Literally.
And then I found myself falling. I found myself falling on dance floors like all over town. It was like if someone had spilled a drink on a dance floor, I was like coasting across the dance floor.
Yes.
Like,
you were water skiing across
really was. I'm not that graceful on land, but like you should see me on the water, dude. Like it's impressive.
I mean, it is. I mean, this is a bit of a segue, but Christy and I were looking at your stats from your latest competition in France, and I mean, it's incredible.
Oh gosh, that was a horrible. I haven't had a competition that bad in years. I'm fighting a little bit of an injury. I'm actually talking to a surgeon on the 29th of this month, so next week sometime, or the next 2 weeks sometime. But I have like a little hip injury, so like I got off the water and I told like my surrogate mom was with me, and I was like, Mama, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to disappoint you, but like every one of my reverses was no credit. I know it because I'm having a problem with my hip, and I couldn't make my ski turn all the way back. Like I couldn't fully engage. And I was absolutely right. I got full credit for, and I mean, tricking, that's like my best.
Yeah.
And I got full credit for every one of my like fronts, but I got all of my reverses just hacked away. I didn't have a great jumping tournament because of my hip, and slalom was like, okay. But I had a great season this year, and I really hit a bunch of goals that I really wanted to work past having fought an injury. So it's just unfortunate that by the time I got to France, I was worn out and I need to seek medical attention.
Sure.
Yeah. And your hips are, I mean, I am probably a very terrible water skier compared to you, but we grew up skiing Lake Tahoe. We can slalom. My mom is the true badass of the group, just her, rooster tails, it's just the best. But yeah, I mean, having an injury and you're playing tug of war with like a whatever ton boat. Like that's not an easy task.
Well, and when you're crossing the slalom wakes, I'm accelerating, so you're kind of accelerating against the force of the boat. So the boat would act as gravity, like if you were on a ski hill. Like imagine the boat's gravity, and you're kind of loading against that gravity. So it'll slingshot you. I'm going like 60 miles an hour across the wakes, even though the boat's only going 34 miles an hour
and I
forward.
go like 30 miles maybe across the wake.
and jumping is sort of the same thing, although the way that I do it is a little less complicated. But the people who really jump, I jump for the overall, and because I love to jump, it's just super fun. But like, I'm like maybe 10th in the world in my age group, which
I mean, that's incredible.
No,
you say that like it's just like, oh yeah, whatever, 10th in the world.
My motto is you have to show up to beat me because I'll be there. But but if you show up, you stand a chance.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, that's still incredible.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. I had always dreamed of being able to do this, and actually, had I not ended up single, I wouldn't have had the time to devote. It's a very selfish sport. I mean, it's a lot of time alone on a lake. With a coach yelling at you from the boat, or not yelling, because my coaches are awesome. They don't yell at anybody.
Yeah.
But like, it's a lot of introspective, like, analysis of your own like behavior. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that when you're married. Now I do have a boyfriend, and thank goodness he's very understanding. of that, and he
Mhm.
actually really likes the sport. He's kind of a fan.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
yeah, so, he doesn't come to tournaments with me because it is boring. If you're
They
not in
are
the
kind of in the
sport,
middle of
it's
nowhere
like
a lot of the
watching
times.
golf.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's
Yeah.
like, how many times are they gonna go around that buoy?
Yeah.
Like
Yes, unless you're probably like a diehard fan, then you
But
can like really get into it.
everybody loves to watch trick and jump. Jump because the crashes can be spectacular. It's
Oh
kind of that,
gosh.
like, race car thing.
Mm.
But, tricks are fun. I mean,
Yeah.
you're doing something pretty incredible. You're in the air, you're moving over the water. It's like
Mhm.
but slalom, my boyfriend's just like, "I'd rather not." And I'm like, "That's fine. I get it because I don't really
No
need the
way. I like
pressure."
nerd out.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, well, I love watching it because I
Oh.
learn something every time I watch
Yeah.
someone
Mhm.
who's better than me ski,
Mhm.
and I try to apply that. Old dogs can learn new tricks.
Yeah.
I've proven it.
And the water skiing and the book and, even your publishing journey, I mean, you were doing this for yourself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, um, it's my pride and joy that I have been given the opportunity to ski and represent the United States
Mhm.
in, international discipline.
Mhm.
Um, it's so cool to me that I have to, like, get background checked by the International Olympic Committee and all that stuff. But when it comes down to it, really, I needed something to do that was about me. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, when your heart is broken and everyone can relate to this, like, I'm a mother. I had small children at the time that this was going on, and just getting out of bed and putting 2 feet on the ground for a while there
Mhm.
was like I was getting out of bed for my children.
Mm.
And then I really wasn't doing anything for myself, and I found myself stuck, like,
Mhm.
and completely lost and feeling like all the walls are caving in on you because, I mean, your whole foundation has literally just been rocked. And my family, I call them my family. They're my best friends, but, like, I have friends that, like, when I found out I was gonna be single, I went across the lake to what I call them my parents. They're a second set of parents for me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And, I sat on their couch and curled up and cried, and I was like, "I don't know what to do," and they're like, "We're gonna get you a lawyer."
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
this is the
They're,
kind
like,
of friends
down to
that they are.
business.
They're family, and
Mhm.
they were like, "Get on the lake. Get
Mhm.
Mhm.
on the lake. Go ski as much as you can." I went from 0 to worlds
Yeah.
in a
Wow.
year because I needed to be on that lake so badly,
It's a
That's
testament to
amazing.
yourself though,
It
you
was
know?
Yeah.
yeah, well, I'm really grateful. I had a wonderful support system, and I wanted to prove to my children more than anything that bad things do happen in life. That's just a part of it,
Mhm.
but it's not really that. I mean, because you can expect bad things to happen, but you also have to expect good things to happen,
Mhm.
and they won't happen if you don't get off your butt and do something about it.
Mhm.
It's not in how you fall down. It's not about how you drop your basket. It's about how you pick it all back up.
Mhm. And so many people, like,
Mhm.
when shit hits the fan, it's, opens the door to these downward spirals, but for you to throw yourself into something that's for you and, it's healthy and you're accomplishing something, like, that there's a lot to be said there as
Well,
well.
and as a mother, you feel like that's selfish, and so your first instinct is to not do that
Mhm.
because, we're told as parents, I mean, men too, as fathers, like, as parents that, once you have a child, the child comes first, this, that,
Yeah.
and the other. The problem is if the parent isn't healthy, the child won't be healthy.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, you might think it's selfish, that would be your first instinct, but it's not. Making sure that you're okay makes sure that your children are okay.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And my children, like anyone else in the world, have gone through rough times. This wasn't easy for them either, mommy starting a new adventure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel though that the one thing they've always said to me is like, thank you for showing us that there is a light. There's always a light. Like try to,
Mm.
Yeah.
find the other side of the leaf, if you're in the shade.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
so
And selfish has such negative, undertones,
Mhm.
overtones. Like, I talk about this with my friends all the time. It's like we need to take back the word selfish because
Mhm.
there is a point where being selfish is the best thing you can do,
oh, absolutely. It's
Because if
self-care.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
because if you just like, deplete yourself and have nothing to show up with for the world, it's like, who are
Mhm.
you for others if you can't be anything for yourself? And
Exactly. And my parents divorced like so many
Mhm.
other people's, and I saw my mother just not find the joy in her life for so long. And
Mhm.
I mean, I absorbed that as her child, whether she wanted to or not. She couldn't help it. She was drowning in her pain,
Mhm.
and I get that, but like I didn't I just had to find a way that, like, I couldn't live like that. I just couldn't. I couldn't be sad. I couldn't hold on. Like, if my husband and I, you can't make someone stay.
Yeah.
Even though I loved him very much and I didn't want to get a divorce because I never pictured myself being there.
Yeah.
Like, also forcing someone to stay in a situation that's not good for them anymore is terrible. Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to live like that either. So, yes, you're unhappy, but you've got to find a way. You've got to find a way to be happy. And like, you
Yeah.
know, dating was it was fun and difficult and scary,
Mhm.
and I didn't like, I would go out and you hear about what I did all weekend,
Yeah.
when I got back to work on Monday, so
Yeah.
like, but I think that that was really important for me to show my kids that, like, hey, like,
Mhm.
I can be fine alone too, but like I'm a grown up and I want to go out and have grown up fun
Yeah.
and show you that you can be happy and healthy and balanced in life.
Mhm. And at what point did you start channeling this into the book?
So I would have my friends over, usually on Monday. It was like the Monday night wrap up.
Sure.
Family dinner at my house is usually including friends and, a fire pit. And like, because I have a huge family anyway, so I'm already cooking for 20 people. I might as well have friends over.
Yeah.
And we would just kind of wrap up things that we'd seen or
Mhm.
stories from the weekend. And, I was always just like basically in shock all the time that stuff really happens because it was now really happening to me.
Yes.
And we used to just laugh and laugh. I mean, yeah, we would be drinking wine and whatever, but we'd start laughing. And finally, like, I was like, we would say, you can't write this stuff because, I mean, who would write this stuff? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I will. I will write this stuff.
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
Because
volunteer to
someone
tribute.
should.
Oh, it's a good story. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could tell us, like, leaving out names and incriminating details, what is kind of like the most hilarious dating horror story that you've witnessed over the years?
Well, actually, it happened to me.
Okay.
Sadly, it was my first date.
Oh no.
Yeah, like back in the dating pool.
Yes.
I'd done Fashion Week and I like did like a few shows for a few designers and one of which was Ophelia. It was the year that we wore these like ginormous blonde afros. And like
Oh my.
I was like divorced diet, so like I mean, I was like skeletal. Like it was perfect for the runway. I was like,
Yeah.
I looked like kind of like an alien, but it had its appeal.
Yeah.
So this gentleman comes up to me and he asks me out, at the after party. And I was like, I'm just sort of newly single. I'm not divorced yet. Like, but definitely getting divorced. Like, there's no fixing that. And I was like, I'm not really comfortable about going out on a date yet. But hey, would you like to meet for lunch?
Mhm.
It could be fun. Like, I was trying to
Save
be
that.
super brave.
Yeah.
Like, I
Oh,
sucked
yeah.
up all my courage and I'm like,
No.
let's go to Panera.
Yeah.
And Panera, you can send the check later.
Yes.
Anyway,
What a vibe, Panera.
Bye.
well, it turns out I had not dated in a very long time. It'd been 14 years. I was 21 years old the last time I went on a date.
Okay. Yeah.
22, married with kids. So
Mhm.
like totally had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And he sent me randomly like that night a picture of himself.
Oh.
He was very proud of it.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
Yes, an unsolicited
No.
picture of
Unsolicited.
himself, which
Yeah.
I make a note in the book, and I wish that any man
Mm.
or woman really listening out there,
Mhm.
unless pictures of your private parts are requested,
Yeah.
please don't send them.
They're not going to be received well.
Yes,
And
no.
where, like, you never know where that person is. Like, are they
Yeah.
like in the middle of
he
public?
was in a
so
lazy
like-
boy.
Yeah. Oh. No, but
By
for
the looks
you,
of it.
Yeah.
It's just
You're
like
like, I can
ingrained
tell
in your
you.
brain.
Yes.
So, anyway, I, said, thank you for lunch. I think that, I'm just not ready for all of this.
This was
And
right after lunch. He sent you.
It was
this.
that evening.
Oh.
He was
Oh, okay.
thinking about lunch.
Yes. Yeah. It was that bread bowl
And
that
I'm
you
just
guys
the
split.
too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There was something about that French onion.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay.
It
We
is,
are
it is
French.
delicious. Yes.
But so I, and I proceeded to get like a lot of texts from him, and then like I kind of blocked his phone, and then I was
Yeah.
getting a lot of not very nice. Like he was calling me names and like whatever for not wanting to go out on a second date
Yeah.
or receive more photos, and it got to the point where it was like harassment. Like I was blocking him on social media, and it was getting like he was showing up at my place of business.
Oh my
and
God. After
so
one date?
yes, and so one of my girlfriends I mean, I do have that effect on men.
Yeah.
What can I say?
You're like, are you surprised?
But one of my
Honestly.
girlfriends, with this being a small town, of course, worked at Dispatch. And she was like, we're Googling this dude
Oh,
immediately.
Oh, man.
And I will
very
not share his
convenient.
name, although I should as a public service to anybody. This gentleman was a twice convicted sex offender.
Oh my gosh.
The first thing that popped up was him in a yellow or an orange jumpsuit. Like,
my God.
No way.
I mean, I was like, and he
Is
really wasn't even like, he wasn't my type or anything. I was just like, I was just trying to be brave and like go out there. And I was like,
Yes.
so that like, please, if I can give anyone any advice in like this whole new world that we live in, Google somebody. I mean, you might find out that
Yes.
like
oh my
the
gosh.
girl is really Kyle Petit, the stock car racer.
Yes.
You might be mistaken, but it still helps to Google because if they were recently incarcerated,
Yes, no,
it will
that's
show
a-
up.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good heads up,
Yes.
honestly.
Allie's got
Yes.
that
He gave
app
me a heads
where-
up and then I
Yeah.
got the heads up.
Oh gosh.
I
Yeah.
have an app just because I have a real estate license, and once you get a real estate license, you have like the ability to log into this app that gives you like a brief background check.
Oh, yes. I've used this app.
Oh, I'm sure you have.
We put
but
it to good use.
me too. And I'm like, okay, so for all of my bosses out there who I've worked on in real estate, I'm like, don't listen anymore. But I've never used it for real estate. Actually, I just use it to
Use
to
it
check
for evil. No.
to all the background on all my
I'm running a
friends.
credit check on you before we go to lunch.
Yeah.
I just meet you and I'm like, let's learn more about you.
Yeah, honestly, that should just be an app for everybody.
I know.
Safety.
Like
Yeah,
it's so
safety
much
first.
fun. You
Uh,
find out a lot about a person and how many speeding tickets they have.
That is so
Yes.
funny. That is
Or
so funny.
or convicted sex
Yeah.
felonies.
Worst case scenario.
Well, I get background checked once a year for the International Olympic Committee because, safe sport is a thing. And I'm really
Mhm.
glad that they've done that, for younger skiers because when I think about it, growing up in a competitive sport like that, like there were things that happened to us that are probably really wrong. But like,
Yeah.
it's just like it was the culture of thing. But so now they background check everybody. And then we have to
Good.
take this continuing education every year.
Uh-huh.
That's like how you interact with athletes, young athletes, and coaches and this and that and the other. And it's really nice. But I pass background checks consistently because I don't
Good.
really do anything. But like when I
I'm like,
applied
that's
for
good to
my
know.
when I applied for my wine import and wholesale license, the guy called me from Indiana, like from the Bureau of Alcohol and Tobacco, and he was like, "By the way, you're the easiest yes I've ever had." He's like, "Do you ever leave your house?" Like,
Oh my
he's like, "And why do you get background checks so often?"
You're like, excuse me, I'm fun. You're like, I'm a little spicy.
I'm a little
Like things happen
spicy.
in my life.
Yes.
Yeah. I know it's funny because it's like on one hand, I'm like really proud of myself if I like cleared a background check that easily, but on the other hand, it's like,
Nothing
Do I-
ever happens to me.
do I need to be more dangerous? Like I don't.
But it worked out
Life
great
on the
because
wild
like
side.
I'm like a known traveler now, so like I don't have to wait in lines. Like
Oh, that's the
the-
best. I
like
have it too.
coming back from Costa Rica through I think it was Houston. Like I didn't even have to go through a customs line. They like took a camera image of me when I was like walking in off the plane, and they're like, "You can just go on through." I'm
You're
like,
like,
I didn't
"What?"
even have to pull out a passport.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, it's
My
the
God.
best.
Mhm.
That's awesome, but kind
So
of
being
scary.
boring,
Yeah.
wildly boring, has its benefits. And I'm not boring.
You're
I just
allowed
don't
back
do
in.
anything criminal.
Yes.
You know.
That's a good trait to
I have a lot of fun, and when I do crazy things, it's usually in my house or my neighborhood. So, like, lessons learned in small towns: keep your crazy either
Yes.
out of town or in the neighborhood.
Be crazy, but the fun kind of crazy,
Yes,
not the
yes.
crazy that gives you a
Under
background.
I mean,
roof.
yes, like I mean, I am of the opinion in our family we don't hide the crazy. We
Mhm.
put it on the front porch and feed it bourbon.
Yeah.
But like, but
That's great.
But we like to keep it like, we don't get crazy and then go drive around.
No, you don't get
know?
caught.
Yeah,
That's for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. Flying under the radar.
CIA,
It's
don't
like,
listen to this anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're listening. It's okay.
They're gonna come
All
call you to
right.
hire you.
Yeah, right.
well, at this point, so where can we buy your book?
I am actually on my way to Sundog Books in Seaside. They're doing a little I can't remember her name right now. That's terrible. There's a blogger. Her first name is Tiffany Ufelder, possibly.
Okay.
She does a book blog for Sundog and for like some of the Seaside stuff, and so she's having me go there. So they sell the book there,
Oh,
and then we also sell it at the Red Bar gift shop, obviously,
Yes.
and at the Louie gift shop,
Yeah.
obviously. So get your crab cakes and a good read, and on Amazon.
Awesome.
And it's a digital, you can get it digital or paperback, but I think the paperback's more fun.
Oh, yeah. No, I like being able to hold a book.
Yeah. The smells, the feel.
And all my misaligned margins.
And where can we find you online?
I have on Facebook, I'm 30 Shades of Grayton. And then I'm 30 Shades of Grayton on Instagram as well. But I'm not really an online I mean, as you can tell, like if you Google my name, it's probably like
Race car driver.
Yeah, 50. I think there's also like some guy in a band in Texas whose name is Kyle Petit. But I'm Kyle Petit. We are French.
Yeah.
And so like Facebook and Instagram is pretty much where I'm at.
All
Like,
right.
yeah, I'm very analog.
It's been such a pleasure talking with you. Before we kind of part ways, what's, your plan moving forward, like with the restaurants, with any future books?
Well, I've got the second one almost written, but things happen like pandemics and restaurants in Florida, like getting crazy busy. And staffing is less, so I'm spending more time in the kitchen, which means my days are a little more occupied, and my nights then, of course, are at the restaurant. But I do have a different. It's the second version is like 2.0 of the book, but this one is
That's so
about
exciting.
learning to love the one you're with after being single. And it still incorporates some of the small town pitfalls because, like, the second you find somebody, everyone's like, "So when are you getting married?
Oh gosh, yes.
Why aren't you married yet?" It's like, we're not married because, well, in our case, we've both been married before and we're happy the way it is, and, I deal with spatial relations, like, when you finally got used to your closet being yours and now all of a sudden you're sharing one again.
Yes.
Like,
And there's dirty socks on the floor.
yes, it is. No, there's a point of, I'm like, excuse me, when did I say you could have 2 racks in the closet? Like,
Right.
when is a drawer more than a drawer? Like, I gave you half of a drawer for your socks, dude. The rest is mine.
Like, that's not how we fold towels in this house.
Oh, don't worry. Nobody folds towels in my house but me. It's like folding towels and changing toilet paper rolls. They squarely on my shoulders. So.
Love it.
Well, we can't wait to read it.
Thank you. And I'm also starting a new venture as a wine importer. So that's fun.
Awesome.
I got my first imports from France when I was over skiing for Worlds.
Okay.
I've made my first 2 contracts. And now I'm talking about putting a label on it. And the label might be 30 Shades. So we'll see.
Love
That's
it.
very exciting. You'll have to keep us
30
updated.
Shades of Malbec from Argentina coming soon.
Ooh, love that. Love that.
I don't know. It's a working label. We were not sure yet, but
We're very
Awesome.
excited to not only read your book, but also drink your wine.
yeah, so you can drink the wine and read the book.
That is
At
our
the same
plan.
time. It's highly encouraged.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kyle.
Thank you, ladies. It's always fun to see you.
Yeah. And thanks everybody for listening. That's a wrap. I never know how to end it.
Right?
Oh my God. That was so awesome. That flew by. Thank you for listening, Storytellers. Wherever you are on your journey and whatever brought you here, we encourage you to tell your story. Tell lots of stories. Now get out there and find your stage.
The Emerald Coast Storytellers podcast is produced in partnership with Sowell House, whose mission is to house creative culture by supporting the individuals who shape it.
Follow them on Instagram @SowellHouse or visit their website, sowellhouse.com, to learn more.